What if your connection to Germany wasn't a coincidence, but a calling your soul recognized before your mind could ever explain it? Maybe you were born there and carry in your very cells the memory of dark forests and long winters, of cities rebuilt over scars, of a people who learned, like no other in the world, to look at the worst of themselves and not look away. Maybe you moved there and discovered that place transformed you in ways you're still trying to understand. Or maybe you've never set foot on German soil, but feel you belong to something that country represents: the precision, the depth, the intensity of those who refuse to settle for the shallow. Whatever your story, you are here, and that is not an accident. Germany is a country the whole world thinks it knows, and almost no one truly understands. From the outside, it looks like a place of cold efficiency, of rules, of almost mechanical punctuality. But those who have truly entered this culture know that beneath that organized surface lies one of the most complex, most rich, and most deeply human souls that has ever existed on Earth. A people who gave the world Beethoven and Goethe, Kant and Einstein, and who also had to learn to carry the weight of what happened when that same intensity was turned toward darkness. A people who did not run from that contradiction, who transformed it into responsibility, and who, in that process, created something the world is still learning to imitate. In this documentary, we will explore 4 spiritual forces that live at the heart of Germany and perhaps at the heart of those drawn to it. We will speak of Weltschmerz, Weltschmerz, that unique pain of realizing the world will never be as good as our minds imagine it should be, and what to do with that realization. We will speak of Gemütlichkeit, Gemütlichkeit, the German art of creating shelter, of turning 4 walls, a lit candle, and beloved people into something that can only be described as sacred. We will speak of Fernweh, the sweet wound of longing for places not yet visited, that ache that pulls toward the horizon, and which Germans understand better than any people on earth. And we will speak of Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, that invisible force that moves generations, that makes certain people born at the exact moment the world needs them. You who were born German will recognize yourself in every word that follows. You who chose Germany as home will understand why something about that place always made sense. And you who feel this pull from a distance will discover it is not merely admiration. It is resonance. Stay, because what comes next will change the way you see this country, and perhaps the way you see yourself. There is a word in German that has no translation, not because translators haven't tried, but because what it describes is so specific, so honestly human, that no other language found it necessary to name it this way. Weltschmerz, Weltschmerz, literally, the pain of the world. But it is not simply sadness, not depression, not empty pessimism. Weltschmerz, Weltschmerz, is something far more precise than that. It is the pain that is born when you look at the world as it is and realize it will never be as good as your mind knows it should be. It is the wound that opens when the ideal meets the real, and the real loses. Germans did not create this pain, but they were the first to look directly at it and say, this has a name, and naming something is already a form of dignity. You who grew up in Germany know exactly what we are speaking of. You felt it in history class when you learned what your own people were capable of doing. You felt it in the endless debates about memory and responsibility, about what must be remembered and how. You felt it in small, everyday moments when the system promised to work and didn't, when the person beside you chose the easier path instead of the right one. That sharp pain of perceiving the distance between what things could be and what they are. That is Weltschmerz, Weltschmerz. And you recognize it. You who left Germany and carried that sensitivity into another place know what it is to carry this gaze in cultures that prefer the surface. You become the person who cannot accept the shallow, who questions more deeply, who unsettles others with your honesty. And sometimes you wonder if it would be easier to simply feel less. But it is not easier, because that depth is part of who you are. And you who feel drawn to Germany from a distance may have already recognized Weltschmerz, Weltschmerz, within yourself without knowing its name. That feeling that the world has too much potential to be this disappointing. That weariness of someone who cares too much to be indifferent. You are not broken. You are tuned in. Goethe wrote about this. Heine wept about it in verse. and Germany as a nation lived a collective and devastating version of Weltschmerz, when it had to look into the mirror of history and recognize what it saw. And it did not look away. That is rare. That is extraordinary. That is, paradoxically, a form of greatness. The spiritual lesson of Weltschmerz, is not to harden, not to stop feeling. It is to learn that the pain of caring is the price of a soul that refuses to be small, that prefers to suffer with the world rather than be indifferent to it, and that in that refusal finds a purpose that extends beyond itself. The weight you carry is not weakness. It is proof that you still believe the world can be better. And that belief, however painful, is sacred. Gemütlichkeit. Try to translate this word, and you will find that language fails you. Coziness gets close. Comfort falls short. Warm atmosphere overexplains and underfeels. Because Gemütlichkeit, is not merely a sensation. It is a practice. It is a philosophy. It is the German answer to the question that Weltschmerz poses. If the world out there is too heavy to bear, how do we survive? The answer is at once simple and profound. You create a world within the world. Imagine a November afternoon in Munich. The sky closed for weeks. A cold that is not brutal but persistent. The kind that works its way through coats and through souls. And then you step into a tavern and something shifts. Not immediately, but gradually. The dark wood of the walls. The amber glow of lamps that are never too bright. The smell of fresh bread and beer and candle wax mingled in the air. The low voices of people who have known each other for years. A warmth that comes not just from a heating, but from a collective decision to be present, to be together, to not let the cold of the world in here. That is Gemütlichkeit, and it was voted the most beautiful word in the German language in 2019. That is no accident. You who grew up in Germany carry this ritual in your body without realizing it. You know, instinctively, how to create this state. The right table, the right candles, the right people. Not many. Gemütlichkeit does not scale well to crowds. It exists among 3, 4, 5 people at most. It is intimacy with intention. It is warmth with curation. And when someone breaks that state with excessive noise, with rushing, with the wrong energy, you feel it physically, like a window opened in winter. You who left Germany and went to live elsewhere know the ache of its absence. Not the food, not the language, not the landscape, though all of that hurts too. What you miss is that quality of presence, of being in a place where people have decided that this moment matters, where no one is in a hurry to be somewhere else, where time slows because everyone has agreed silently that it is worth slowing down. And you admire Germany from a distance, may have already tried to create Gemütlichkeit, without knowing its name. That afternoon you arranged with such care. The candles, the right music, the people who make you feel safe. You were practicing something very German. You were creating shelter. You were responding to the weight of the world with the only weapon that truly works. The intentional presence of those you love. The spiritual lesson of Gemütlichkeit, is this. Human warmth does not happen by accident. It is built, brick by brick, candle by candle, pause by pause. And building that shelter, for yourself and for others, is not a luxury. It is a sacred act of resistance against everything that is cold, rushed, and hollow in the world. Fernweh, fern distant. Pain. The pain of the distant. The longing for places not yet visited. The wound that opens not when you lose something you had, but when you miss something you have not yet found. The English have wanderlust, the desire to roam. But Fernweh is deeper, more painful, more specific than that. Wanderlust wants to leave. Fernweh already misses before leaving. It is a longing that does not need absence to exist. It is the soul recognizing, before the body does, that there is a place in the world where something essential awaits. And Germans understand this feeling better than any other people on earth. Consider the German Romantic movement of the 18th and 19th centuries. Goethe, Caspar David Friedrich. The poets who transformed distant nature into altar. Friedrich painted figures from behind, gazing toward the infinite, not toward the viewer, toward the horizon, as though the truth were always just beyond what the eyes could reach. That image is not decorative. It is a portrait of the German psyche. You who were born in Germany know how Fernweh manifests. That feeling in spring, when the sky finally opens after months of gray, and something inside you cannot stay still. Train tickets bought months in advance. The backpack prepared with an almost ritualistic precision. The backpack on the back is almost a national symbol, not by accident. The German does not travel merely for leisure. They travel because they must, because there is something in the distant that the interior of the country, however beautiful, cannot satisfy. You who left Germany to live somewhere else may have noticed something curious, that the Fernweh did not disappear when you departed. It simply changed address, because Fernweh is not about a specific place. It is about distance itself. It is the soul that needs the horizon the way it needs air. And you who left, who crossed borders, who learned another language, who rebuilt your life on different soil. You did not escape the Fernweh. You lived it completely. You followed the call. That is rare. That is brave. And you who feel drawn to Germany without having been born there. Perhaps Germany itself is your Fernweh. That country that appears in your dreams, in your late-night searches, in songs you listen to without understanding the words, yet feeling every note. That pull needs no rational explanation. Fernweh never did. The spiritual lesson of Fernweh is this. The soul has its own geography, places it recognizes before visiting, horizons it calls home before arriving. And when you feel that call toward a country, a city, a language, a culture, do not ignore it. Do not rationalize it away. Do not postpone it indefinitely. The horizon calling you is calling for a reason. Zeitgeist, Zeit, time. Geist, spirit. The spirit of the time. It is a word the entire world borrowed from German, because no other language had a word for it. And the fact that it was the Germans who created this concept is not an accident. It is revealing, because to create a word for the spirit of the time, you must first be capable of feeling that spirit, of perceiving that there is something invisible passing through an entire generation, an underground current of ideas, of anxieties, of transformations, that no individual created alone, but that everyone carries together, that sensitivity to the collective, to historical movement, to the tide that forms before it breaks, is profoundly German. Consider the moments when Germany named the spirit of its own time. The Sturm und Drang und Drang movement of the 18th century, which declared, intense emotion is legitimate. Revolt against conformity is necessary. The philosophy of Kant and Hegel that reorganized how the Western world thinks about itself. The Romantic movement that transformed nature into a mirror of the human soul. The Weimar Republic that attempted, brilliantly and tragically, to create a new form of society between two wars. And then the Reconstruction, the economic miracle, and then reunification. Two peoples who had lived decades apart trying to find, once again, a common spirit. Each of these moments was a zeitgeist, and the Germans did not merely live them. They named them, they analyzed them, they taught them to their children so that the spirit of the time would not dissolve into the fog of forgetting. You who were born in Germany carry this historical sense in your blood. You know that things do not happen in a vacuum, that every present moment has deep roots in the past and long consequences in the future. This awareness, sometimes heavy, always necessary, is what makes the German gaze upon the world so particular, so precise, so irreplaceable. You who left Germany and carry the gaze elsewhere know the effect it produces. You are the person who asks where things come from, who cannot accept the present without understanding the past, who sees patterns where others see only isolated events. That is a deep cultural inheritance, and it is a gift. And you who feel drawn to Germany from a distance may feel that you were born in a moment that needs precisely what Germany represents: the seriousness, the depth, the refusal to be superficial in a world that celebrates the shallow. That is not nostalgia. It is recognition. You feel the zeitgeist, and it resonates with something you already carry within yourself. The spiritual lesson of zeitgeist, is this. You were not born in just any moment. You were born in the exact moment when your soul had something specific to learn and something specific to offer. Time is not merely the backdrop of your life. It is part of your purpose. Consider for a moment how these four themes live together. Weltschmerz teaches you that the world is imperfect, and that feeling that imperfection deeply is not weakness. It is the signal of a soul that refuses to be small. Gemütlichkeit, teaches you that, faced with that imperfection, the answer is not cynicism. It is the deliberate creation of warmth, of presence, of a space where the weight of the world cannot enter. Fernweh teaches you that even inside the most perfect shelter, the soul needs the horizon, that growing means departing, that distance is not betrayal, it is destiny. And Zeitgeist, teaches you that you did not arrive here by accident, that you were born in a specific moment, in a specific culture, with a specific sensitivity, because there was something here for you to learn, and something here for you to offer. These four themes do not contradict each other. They complete each other. They are the spiritual map of a soul that feels deeply, that creates shelter, that departs in search, and that knows it belongs to its time. You who were born in Germany may never have stopped to name what you have always known, that there is a German way of being in the world that is unique, not superior, not perfect, but unique, a way that combines rigor and sensitivity, depth and warmth, roots and horizon. You carry all of this, and there are days when that weight feels like too much, and there are days when you realize it is precisely that weight that makes you who you are. You who left Germany and rebuilt your life somewhere else, carried with you more than a language and a passport. You carried a way of seeing, a demand for depth, a capacity to create Gemütlichkeit, wherever you are. A Fernweh that does not end when you arrive, because Fernweh is not about destinations. It is about the soul that keeps growing. And a Weltschmerz that, far from home, sometimes hurts more, because now you miss not only the world as it should be, but the place where you first learned to feel that. And you who loved Germany from a distance, who were never born there, but feel that something in that country speaks directly into you. You are not mistaken. You are not projecting. You are recognizing. Because souls do not have geographical borders. They have resonances. And the resonance you feel with this culture is real. It is valid. It is yours. What Germany has to teach the world is not found in its products, nor its highways, nor its football. It is found in its courage to name what hurts, in its wisdom to create warmth in the cold, in its boldness to depart without forgetting where it came from, and in its awareness that every generation inherits the Zeitgeist, of its time, and bears the responsibility of leaving it better than it found it. Whatever your story with this country, thank you for staying until the end, and for letting this soul touch yours.